Hiya, welcome to my studio. Sorry about the mess. And what I'm going to do today is introduce you to silkscreen printing. And for this you need a screen and a squeegee and some paper, acrylic, paint and textile medium. If you're doing one of my courses, you'll have this already in your pack. If not, you can buy them on Amazon. The squeegee you can pick up between £10 and £20 each. This is quite a basic screen that comes with the mesh, the frame and the mesh, and that costs me just over £10. Or if you want to make your own, you could just pick up a frame, an old frame from a second-hand shop. Make it quite a sturdy one because you want to be able to stretch your silk over your screen. Could be something like this, and then you could separately buy mesh on Amazon. The mesh is, I can't remember, but I think it's £10 for 3 yards, and that's going to keep you going for quite a while, so that will be fine. And then basically what you would do to make your own screen is you cut your mesh to sort of quite a bit larger than the actual size of the frame, and you'd stretch it over the frame and staple gun it at the back. Not too difficult to do, but you do need a staple gun, obviously. Okay, so basically this is how it works. What you're going to do is you're going to use screen printing ink, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And you're going to place a stencil on the back of your screen that blocks out particular areas. And the areas that aren't blocked out are the areas you're going to print through. And basically, you dribble the paint, the fabric paint, or just ordinary screen printing ink onto the screen, and you squeegee the ink through like this, and it goes through the bits that are exposed onto the paper, and it doesn't go through where it's not. You'll see this in a minute when I demonstrate it much more clearer, hopefully. Okay, the first thing you're going to need is a design. So I'm going to do my design, I've already done it actually. I'm going to do my design in text because I like working with text. Now I've hand drawn my text because that's what I do, but if you're not very confident about drawing your text, you can trace it off newspapers, or you can just cut it out of the newspapers, and that way, you know, instead of getting this rather neat sort of design here, you could do something along the lines of, I don't know, the Sex Pistols album or something like that, where it's a little bit more random. The text isn't all the same font, the same style of face, and you can mix and match a bit and to make it a bit more I don't know, rad. Okay, well, I've decided that I'm going to do a slogan on my t-shirt, and it's one I've pinched actually unashamedly off one that I've already been given, but I quite like it, and it's sort of appropriate for this course. Till death do we art. And so what I've done is I've roughed it out onto a piece of paper first, in a sort of, I've allowed enough so that it fits on the screen, but also there's quite a bit of space around it. And this is more or less the sort of size that I want to keep for the front of a t-shirt. I've sort of measured up, and this is what I want. So I've just sketched this out from pencil because I used to do typography, so I do that sort of thing. If you're not used to creating letter forms, you might want to go to a newspaper and get those large headlines, cut them out, trace them off, whatever, in order to create your piece of work. Or perhaps you're quite confident in drawing them up from examples, etc. So this is the one I've done. As I draw it up, I've made a few mistakes, so it's as well to do it first in rough, so that you can refine it for the next for the final piece. So this is my rough version, and I've done those words too close together, so I'm going to, and they're not centered, so I'm going to move that across a bit. But what I've done is I've outlined it in a very, very bold felt pen so that I can see through it. And I've literally just traced off and slightly moved the bits of type that I'm not happy with, so that they're in the right place. And the next step is to cut these letters out with either a scalpel or a craft knife, like that. Oops, there we go. And on a cutting mat, obviously, or if you haven't got a cutting mat, a piece of card, so that you don't ruin your table surfaces. Cut those out. When you're cutting them out, be very careful to keep these inside pieces, like the inside of the D, because you're going to have to just tack those onto your screen when you prepare it. You'll see what I mean when I do it, but don't lose these bits in the middle, because otherwise you're going to be in stuck. Okay. Right, well now I've cut out my letters, so I've actually got my sheet of paper to use as a on the screen, so to block out the areas that I don't want to print, and obviously these are the bits that will print. So I'll show you how that goes, but just a little, obviously I've kept hold of these little bits here, look, they're there. Never throw anything away, because in doing that cutting out, you've also got your positive pieces here, your actual bits here. Now this is much more difficult to use on a screen, because you'd have to stick it onto the screen, and there's a danger that you damage the screen if you want to hang on to it. If it's not important, and if you're going to get rid of it anyway, or if it's reaching the end of its life, it doesn't really matter so much. This just gives you an opportunity to do another piece of work, and if you're portfolio building, anything you do, you want to maximise your output. So if you can use the bits that you're throwing away for something else that's going to produce another piece of work, that's fabulous. So what I'm thinking already to do with this is either I could rearrange it so it's a little bit more random, a little less sort of neat freak, or but certainly if I don't want to do that, which is not really my style, I'm thinking about whether if I stuck these down on a piece of paper, or on, just tack them with a bit of Pritt stick or something, whether if I roll her over the top, that's going to give me quite a nice sort of arty type of looking background for these white letters. So I'm going to try that later as well, so we'll see how that turns out. If not, I'll probably take them and use them in my sketchbook for various bits and pieces, just as an explanation or as an elaboration or as another piece of art. Okay, so look, I've just stuck that on there now. That's all secured onto the back. We mustn't forget those little bits, the bits in between the letters. Okay. Some of my pieces are a bit fiddly, so I've taken a slightly, you can see that, a slightly larger one, which is the bit inside the larger A. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply just a little bit of Pritt stick to the front of that piece, and just, if you can see what I'm doing, just sit onto the back of the screen, secure it in position. There we are. So there you go. So you're just starting to get your middle pieces. Now I'm going to shoot off and do the rest of those on my screen, and then we can start thinking about printing. One thing you need to do before you start printing is on the non-printing side, the flat bit to the screen, you need to just take some bits of card. You can either use grey board or cardboard, and using some tape, just tape it to the back of the screen, like this, on each corner. Now the reason you do this is because when you push down on the screen, you need to give it a little bit of give so that the screen doesn't stay flat to the paper when you're making your screen print, and there's more likelihood that it'll make a mess and to get. Right, we've got lift off. I'm ready to print. I've got my fabric paint all beautifully mixed up. I've got my screen and I've got my squeegee. So this is what you do. So I'm going to splodge on a little row of paint along here, a bit too much there. Never mind, I can always use my squeegee. Probably a little bit too much there, but I'm trying. Okay, I'm going to spread that across a little bit more evenly. Getting behind a reasonable amount of ink there, and I'm going to pull this across the screen like so. So you've basically dragged an entire layer of ink across your page, and then you very gently lift off to reveal your image. Now I've used, obviously, I actually think I've used far too much ink there, mainly because I was trying to do that and hold the camera, which is not ideal. So I would say just use a little bit less ink, because we've managed to get quite a lot of bleed on that. But that's the basic principle. Okay, so you've made all these prints. Where are you going to put them to dry? Bit of a problem. Quite easy actually to just to hang them up. I've just made here a little washing line with a bit of string and some of those clips, and you can hang that across the room somewhere from one drawing pin to another and hang your prints on. Very, very important, remember to clean your screen. If you don't, it'll all block up with the ink when it dries. You can see I'm just leaving this to air dry, and as it dries you'll be able to see if you've missed any bits, but you need to clean up straight away. Don't leave things lying around to get dry, otherwise you'll ruin your kit. Ditto with your squeegee. I'm lucky that I've got an outside tap so I can do it and not make too much of a mess, but otherwise, you know, I don't know where you're going to do it, Bath, dare I say. So I don't know if you can see, but I've taken the letters that I cut out and I've just stuck them with a little bit of Pritt stick onto another piece of paper. I'm going to get a print roller and tray and make something else. So as you can see, I've quite carefully lifted those letters off and we've got another poster. So you can see that in a very short amount of time you can produce quite a lot of work.